Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has announced that $1 million worth of assistance will be made available to fishermen and others affected by the recent oil spill and fish kill events along the southwest shoreline. The Prime Minister stressed, however, that the matter of compensation for those affected still had to be determined as the cause of the event is still being investigated. Here again is Peter Christopher.
Speaking at the post-cabinet briefing on Thursday, the Prime Minister pointed out that the recent occurrences of dead fish reaching shorelines and a subsequent oil spill had gravely affected fishermen and crab catchers along the southwest coast. He said that even though there had been no proof that the fish had been poisoned, public perception had been that the fish available from that area of the country was not fit for consumption. This resulted in severe losses for those whose incomes were directly tied to that market.
It's against that background that today the Cabinet instructed the Minister of Finance to allocate and find for use $1 million to allow, without prejudice, assistance to those persons who have lost their livelihood as a result of what is happening in that particular area.
However, the Prime Minister stressed that this was not a matter of government providing compensation, explaining that liability, particularly with regard to the oil spill, still had to be determined.
It is not compensation, it is assistance. We have also instructed that Petrotrin identify any and all responsibilities which it may have with respect to oil leak, oil spill in the area, because if it is determined that Petrotrin's activities would have caused any outcome, there are legal liabilities which Petrotrin must discharge, and that's where the compensation comes in.
Earlier in the post-cabinet press briefing, Minister of Agriculture Clarence Rambrat said the issue of compensation still had to be determined as further tests would have to be done on the dead fishes found at Otaheite. Peter Christopher, C News.
We never said all fish are contaminated. That's the statement heading a news release sent out late last evening by fishermen and friends of the sea. It states that neither Gary Aboud in his private nor public capacity, nor any fishermen and friends of the sea officer have ever said that it was not safe to eat any fish, since hundreds of dead fish were surfacing at various points of the Gulf of Paria. They wish to correct misquotes which have become common. Fishermen and Friends of the Sea maintains its position that it is not advisable to eat any fish with total petroleum hydrocarbons at more than the recommended EU benchmark. They note that tested fish samples from La Brea are at 1.42 million times higher than recommended. The group also advises caution in the consumption of Gulf of Paria bottom-dwelling fish, especially in the Petrotrin-designated red zone of La Brea. This is an area where a wide variety of creatures continue to wash ashore, sick and dying on a daily basis since the fateful disaster of December 17, 2013. Fishermen and Friends of the Sea says any warnings they have issued have not been for surface-dwelling fish from the Gulf in particular, or generally from other parts of Trinidad and Tobago. The group awaits additional total petroleum hydrocarbons lab tests, which are being done jointly with the Environmental Management Authority on specimens from La Brea, Mosquito Creek, Otaheite, San Fernando, Claxton Bay, and as far as Carenage. Fishermen and Friends of the Sea say they'll release the Kariri findings as soon as they receive them.